Good morning, good morning. Okay, today's tutorial is gonna be a good one. Do you know why? Because I get to sew up one of my besties' quilt patterns, and that makes me automatically happy. Today we're going to be making the Cakewalk pattern by my good friend Ellie at Mojave Farms Quilt Company. Oh, she is a gem. If you guys don't follow her, please do so. She's fabulous. And I'm going to be using the materials that I received in my Sewing Parts Online Mojave Farms Quilt Company ambassador box from a while back. I just have had this and haven't had a chance to make it, but I have the perfect person who will be receiving this quilt, and I'll tell you about that later. So, couple things before we start. If you want to make yours just like mine, I would just go ahead and get the box from Sewing Parts Online. It comes with your background fabric, your main fabric, which is a jelly roll. You get a new pair of amazing sewing shears, an enormous spool of glide thread, and then of course the pattern. That's a really good deal. That glide thread, the big spool, is like quite a bit of money just in itself. So if you want to do that, that's fine. If you want to just use your own jelly roll and background fabric, that's also fine. But y'all know the drill. When it is a pattern that does not belong to me, I am not going to share with you the cutting information and the fabric requirements and all of that jazz, because I want you to support the person who actually created the pattern. And I will always, always, always stand behind that. So if you want the pattern, go get it from Mojave Farms Quilt Company or get that ambassador box. And where I'm going to pick up the tutorial is right after we cut all of the fabric up. So once you get everything cut beautifully, meet me back here and we're going to start sewing this together. This pattern is very beginner friendly and it's fun because you can make it with a jelly roll. And the reason I like that is because your fabrics are already coordinated for you. So pick a jelly roll that you love, pick out a background fabric that you love, and that's all you have to do. So let's get started sewing some of our pieces together. I'm going to pick up as if we just finished cutting all of our pieces and we're ready to go. Okay, let's do it. Step one is to put together 3 jelly roll strips to create a larger set of 3 jelly roll strips that we're going to sew together. So one thing that I like to do is sort of do light, dark, light, or dark, light, dark. You don't have to follow that plan, but I do feel like it kind of helps with just your distribution of color and how your eye moves across the quilt. So let's see. Got a light here. We'll put that one aside. Oh, this is cute. Oh, I like this. Well, that worked out really great. I think that looks really good together. Yeah. Okay, so let's head over to the machine and I'm going to show you how to start piecing these rows together. This is so easy. You're going to love it. I am going to be using some Aurifil thread today. You can use the glide thread that came with it. I actually already used that whole spool because I loved it so much. So I'm just going to use this white Aurifil cotton thread. And I have it on my spool holder back here because I use so much of it that I just buy the huge spool now. And my stitch length is going to be set to a 2.5. I'm going to be piecing this using my 1/4 inch quilt foot with guide. Y'all know how I love this foot. This means that if you center your needle right here, and if you let your fabric run against the wall here, that's going to give you a 1/4 inch seam. So let's put that on. And let me tell you what, for needle size on this, you can use a universal 80-12 if you want to, but I have been a little bit obsessed with this little set of needles lately. It's called the Schmetz Piecing and Quilting Needles, and it comes with a set of quilting needles here, and then it also comes with Microtex needles. I love Microtex needles. If you are needing to do some really precise piecing and you want to make sure you're not skipping stitches and you just want things to look really uniform and beautiful, Microtex needles are absolutely fabulous. The stitches that come out of these needles are so beautiful. I'll show you in just a minute because I've got one loaded on my machine right now. So this is a good option. A lot of you have been asking about the different types of needles. So I'm going to make sure to start using some new ones in my videos so that you can kind of get an idea of what they all do and what they're for. And another tool, while I'm talking about it, another tool that's worth having in your sewing room is the Schmetz ABC Pocket Guide. This is only, I think, like $7 on the internet. You can buy it anywhere. And it's going to tell you the anatomy of your needles. It's going to go through every type of needle that Schmetz Schmetz cells, and it's going to tell you exactly what those needles are good for. So for the Microtex, it's going to say it has a very slim, acute point. It's great for microfibers, cork, batiks, bamboos, cotton polyesters. It lists every fabric that it's good on, and it tells you why it's the right choice for that project, which I think is so helpful. Guys, knowledge is power. So you can walk around wondering what your needles are for and just never explore it, or you can get the tools that you need to actually understand what they're for on your machine. And it really does make a difference. I can't wait to show you how beautiful these stitches are. They're just gorgeous when they come out. So uniform and precise. Now, before we start piecing all of this beautiful quilt together, I need to stop and say thank you to today's video sponsor, Wild Grain. And honestly, this could not come at a better time because the next part of the quilt is where we're going to settle in, sew a bunch of lines, maybe put on our favorite show, and grab a snack. We're basically entering our cozy quilting era. And listen, if there is one thing I love as much as fabric showing up at my door, it's bread showing up at my door. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. Everything comes frozen and ready to bake, so you can have fresh bakery quality breads and pastries without doing all the work yourself, because nobody wants to do that. I was so excited unpacking all of the contents of my first box, but the thing that stood out to me the most were the ham and cheese foldovers. I had to bake those immediately. All I had to do was grab it from my freezer, bake it in the oven, and we had a fresh, delicious snack ready to go. P.S. My whole family loved them, and I'm gonna have to buy more now because they're all asking for them again. I also really love that Wild Grain uses simple ingredients, no preservatives, and a slow fermentation process for their breads. It feels like such an upgrade from grabbing whatever bread is sticking out to me at the grocery store at the time. Who knows how long it's been sitting out. Plus, they're always adding new seasonal items, which is really fun. They also have a bunch of different box options, including variety, gluten-free, vegan, and they also now offer protein boxes. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Wild Grain has over 40,000 five-star reviews and has been voted best food subscription box by USA Today for 3 years running now. Plus, and this is one of my very favorite things about Wild Grain, is with every box ordered, Wild Grain donates a meal to a food security nonprofit at no extra cost to you, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And absolutely another reason to support this company. If you want to check out Wild Grain, click the link in my description and use code Chelsea30 to receive $30 off your first box. Plus, free croissants for life. I'm sorry, what? Yes, free croissants for life. Okay, now that I've made myself thoroughly hungry, I'm gonna run downstairs, eat my ham and cheese fold over, and come right back and show you how to start sewing this quilt together. It's gonna be so much fun. So I'm going to take my jelly rolls, I've got them right here, and I'm gonna put one down, pretty sides touching. Line up my raw edges and my selvages. I just left the selvages on. It gives me a little runway to start out on. Load it under my machine, line everything up, and just start sewing. Now make sure before you start sewing that your needle is hovering right above the circle of that 1/4 inch quilt foot with guide. If you're using just a regular sewing foot, you're fine. It doesn't really matter, but that 1/4 inch quilt foot demands that you put your needle in a certain position. And I can't tell you the number of needles I have broken because I just wasn't paying attention and I went ahead and started sewing and it was, to the left a little too far and then I smashed it on my presser foot, which is a real bummer because especially if you're using those awesome Microtex needles, they might be, I don't know if they're more expensive, but you may not have as many of them. So you want to make sure you take good care of them. So anyway, we're going to sew this straight down till morning. And make sure, you guys, when you're piecing this, if you have a jelly roll that has multiple colors and designs, that you're kind of mixing it up because that's the fun of this quilt. And truly, that's one of the things I love about Ellie's quilts in general is she makes it so that you can really mix things up. Her quilt patterns are very scrap buster friendly. So you've got a pile of scraps. You can also just use those to make this quilt as well. And the size options on this particular pattern, I think she gives you a baby version, a throw version, and maybe a queen size version. Those stitches are just so pretty. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but look how uniform and lovely those stitches are on that fabric. Oh, that Microtex needle. Okay, So if we open this up, we've now connected 2 jelly rolls. If this is your first time sewing 2 jelly rolls together, good job. I'm proud of you. Now lay it back down and visualize where you want that next strip to go. So lay it all out and then just flip it up onto it and sew it again. You have a little leeway on either end here, not like a ton. I feel like I have something in my hair. I don't. It's on my screen. Y'all, my house is a mess. But yes, you do have a little leeway here. So your selvages don't have to match up 100% perfectly, because we're going to cut these strips down in a few minutes into smaller sets of those little 3 colors together. And that's when the fun really starts. Piecing this quilt together is super fun. That's your first strip. That's all you have to do for this first step. Do this with all of the jelly roll pieces that you set aside for this step until you run out of jelly roll pieces. I forget how many, I don't even remember how many you're going to have, but you'll have a bunch. And I'm going to sew. I've got another set right here. Let's just look at this for funsies while you're still here with me. See how these look together. Like really mix those colors up, y'all. That's what makes this so visually interesting. I'm in love with this color. I mean, can you tell? Clearly. Oh, that's a good one. It kind of reminds me of the Irish flag. I love it. Okay, I'm going to sew these together, and then I'm going to meet you over at the ironing board and show you how to press these out, and then I'll show you how to cut them down into the sizes that we need. Okay? You're doing great. Keep it up. Okay, you little cuties. We've got our strips. We're going to press these out. So you can do this a number of ways, but if you follow my little system of doing dark, light, dark, you can just press these to the dark side or whatever side, wherever that falls for you. If you have dark in the middle, you might push them in. For this one, I've got the darks on the outside, so I'm going to push them out. It's really not that serious. You just do the best you can. And if you find that just pressing them all one direction is easier for you, that's also fine. You know why? Because this is your sewing project and you get to make the rules, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to work my way down from the back and sort of just be pushing my fabric out as I go with my fingers, just to get it as flat as possible, because these measurements matter. We need to have as close to a 6.5 inch width on these strips as possible. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and just double check that I don't have any overlapping. And I'm also going to use just a little bit of this, I think it's flatter spray. Yeah, it smells like pineapples, which I love. And that helps just kind of get things nice and crisp and flat. And it smells good, which I like. It's not overpowering, but it just smells nice. Now this one, let's see. It's a plant-based one. I don't think this one has starch in it. Yeah, I think it's starch-free, but it does help flatten out your fabrics for sure. So go ahead and press all of your pieces so they look like this, and then I'll meet you back over there and we'll cut them up. Okay. The goal now is to take each of these long strips and we're going to cut them down into 10 sections that are 4 inches wide. Okay, so to do that, let's first even up our end here where it's a little bit jagged from all of our selvages meeting. And you can move in just a little bit on this to make sure you get all the selvages. Whoops. And then we're going to measure over 4 inches. So I'm holding my ruler right above the 4-inch, my 4-inch mark right here. I'm going to cut it. And move down and do it again. Now you can measure this against the markings on your cutting mat if you want, or you can just do it like I'm doing and measure it against the 4-inch mark on your ruler. Just make sure that some of these acrylic square rulers can be sneaky. And this one, for example, is 6.5 inches. So you've got this little 1/2 inch over here. So if you had flipped this and you were trying to do 4, you might end up cutting it incorrectly, a little bit too big. So just make sure you're double checking. You're at 1, 2, 3, 4 and laying it right there along the line, cutting it as straight as you can. And you'll have extra on the end here. Let me keep cutting this and I'll show you how much extra I have. Perfect. Yeah, so you can see you've got a good little bit here on the end in case you need to move things over. Okay, so go ahead and cut down all of those long strips into 4-inch pieces, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, little cuties, we've got all these beautiful vertical stripy things finished, and you don't have to mix them up yet because the next step is, it's going to take a little bit. So get comfortable, put on a nice book, audio book, or a show that you can, kind of pay attention to, but also be watching your needle because we don't want anybody to get hurt. And all we're going to do is take a square, pretty side up, and then your 3-piece piece, match those together, and you're just going to sew right across. Now I'm going to sew from the block side because then I don't have to deal with these seams. And that makes my life a little bit easier. So load that into your machine. We're doing the 1/4 inch again. Make sure your edges are lined up nicely and then sew it on through. And that's it. You're going to do that, I don't know, 1,450 times, whatever, until you get through this pile. So just pretty sides to pretty sides. It does not matter right now if you mix all these colors up. We will do that when we put the pieces together to make the quilt. This is one of the reasons I love Ellie's quilts as well, is she makes the steps very simple. So even though this pattern looks more intricate when it's finished, the construction of it is actually pretty simple. So just keep working your way through this pile on those 1/4 inch seams. My eye is watching where my fabric is lining up against that 1/4 inch quilt foot width guide. I'm not watching my needle. I'm watching the fabric. Okay, get through this whole pile and I will show you the next step. This comes together pretty quickly after we do this part. This is what your blocks should look like because now we're going to press them. Now listen, when I cut these, I pieced like all that was left of my jelly rolls and I ended up with 90 of these. And the pattern calls for 80 of these squares, but I had enough of the background fabric to cut squares for those orphan pieces. I think I had 9 total orphan pieces. I don't know. So what it's going to end up doing is I will have an extra row that I can add to the end here, which will make my quilt wider, but it won't make it any longer so it doesn't mess with any of these side pieces. So if you want to have like zero waste from this pattern, from how I'm making it, you could use what's left over of your jelly roll if you have enough of your background fabric to make one more column, I think. I'm pretty sure I have 1 square left over if I do it that way. So just a hint, if you do find that you have extra pieces, you might as well use them. I mean, you can always use a wider quilt for snuggling. So now we're going to spend a little time at the ironing board. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to press my seams towards the block because there's less going on over there. If I tried to press it over here, I've got all these seams to contend with. But if I just press it towards my plain block, that'll make it a lot easier. So I will be here for a little while pressing my seams. You guys do the same. And then we're also going to check, once we have these all pressed, we're going to double check each of them to make sure that they're measuring, I think it's 6.5 by 10 inches. So we'll do that after this step. You're doing great. Keep it up. Look at our beautiful stack of pressed out squares, rectangles, whatever. All right, the next thing we need to do is make sure that they are measuring 6.5 by 10 inches. Now this is a Creative Grids ruler and it is 6 inches. So what I'm gonna do is lay it kind of on my mat here and see when I lay that there. Yep, we're right at 6.5, so that's good. And 10 inches. So go ahead and check all of them to make sure that they are measuring 6.5 by 10. Okay. And once you do that, we're going to start putting these together in long columns. And that's when we start to see the form take shape of our quilt top. Okay. Let's pull 8 blocks out. If you want to like throw these in the dryer to mix them all up together, that's fine. I'm just going to mix them up on my table. And you want to try and use different colors in every block. Try not to make any that are the same go next to each other. So I'm going to lay it out this way because my table is long and not wide. I'm going to kind of overlap them a little bit so that I have enough room here to fit everything. And we're just going to grab blocks and do a fun little lineup. Just flip your pile over if it's not mixed up enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 8. 6, 7, 8. I don't want that there. I'm actually going to move this all the way down. Put this guy at the top. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I've got my colors all laid out here. And all we're going to do now is start sewing end to end. Sure, it's such a mess. Jelly rolls tend to be a little, like they shed a lot. So just be ready to vacuum. So take your first 2 and you're going to have 3 block, 3 block, 3. That's the plan here. So make sure you're always matching a block with a 3. And line your raw edges up. So straight across. And you could chain piece this step as well if you wanted to go ahead and lay out all of your columns. The pattern is telling me I should end up with, I think it's 10 total columns. But if I played my cards right, I might be able to get 11 columns, which if you have the fabric, why not? Just make it a little wider. Okay, so this is what it should look like. We're making tall columns. And literally, that's all we're doing is just working our way down the line. So create this column, and then we'll go ahead and match some new fabrics together and make another column. Isn't this easy? It's just straight lines, but it's very visually interesting, which I love. And the colors are so bright and happy on this. So this quilt is actually going to be for my son's preschool teacher, who is an absolute angel on earth, Miss Wanda. She, I just love her. Her school is very old school. She is, I'm not going to say she's old. That's not nice. But she's like kind of a grandma, if you will, and incredibly just driven to teach these kids and prepare them for kindergarten. So my kid's been there, my littlest one has been there 2 years, and he is already reading like chapter books, and he hasn't even gone to kindergarten yet. So not full chapter books, but you know, like longer books than pages that just say like Jane stood up, you know, like actual storylines. He can read them. So we're really happy with his time there. And I'm so sad that our time with her is coming to a close because she feels like family, especially when they're loving on your kid all day. And let me just give that advice to any new moms who are, or dads, any new parents that are, you know, thinking of putting your child in daycare. We went through the gamut with preschools and daycares because I had to work, you know, all the time while my kids were young. And at first I thought the most important thing was finding one that had cameras like in every room that showed every angle and I could watch him all day. And first of all, I never got anything done at work because I was just sitting there watching the cameras all day because I missed my kids. But I realized that sometimes when you find the right person, she doesn't have cameras in her school. It's, you know, very old school, the way that she functions. But knowing that he is going every day and being loved on and treated kindly and making friends and learning how she teaches them how to act like, you know, ladies and gentlemen at the table and putting your napkin in your lap and, you know, holding the door for each other and just like common decency. That's what they learn there. And I trust her. I'd have no problem not being able to see him all day because I know that he is just being loved on by his other grandma. Is kind of what she is to him. So, you know, sometimes the most important thing is not the technology, but the love that they'll receive and the care when they're away from you. All right, so here's our first column. I think this quilt's going to be so happy and bright and lovely. All right, so I'm going to lay this over here and I'm just going to start making more columns as I go. I'm going to use up all of my pieces. I'll let you know how it goes. Like I said, I think we definitely will get 10 full columns, but we should hopefully be able to get 11 with the number of squares I had. I'll keep you posted. Sew up all your columns and I'll meet you back here and we'll put this all together. Okay, we've got all of the columns sewn. And I've laid them out, and I like the way that they're looking right now. If you want to make any switches or changes at this point, it would be a good time to do so. And if this is not like showing you enough of the quilt, you can always lay these out on your floor or on a bed somewhere to really get an idea. I like that it's all kind of mixed up. So I am going to start working from right to left. So grab your far two pieces, and we're going to match these up pretty sides touching. So here's the nice thing about this type of quilting is you're going to want to try and match these seams here, but just do the best you can. If they're not perfect, it's fine. It's still going to look beautiful. So match them up. Let's go to the machine and I'm going to show you how to sew it. Oh, and that was the other thing I wanted you to see in that. We stagger it. So it's going to be one column is going to start with the 3 pieces and the next column starts with a block, 3 pieces block all the way down to make it staggered. So just make sure that you're doing that when you are laying out your columns. Match your raw edges together here. And we're going to sew a nice long strip on that 1/4 inch seam. And one thing to do before you do this step is to double check that you still have plenty of bobbin thread. Because if you're going to run out, it'll be at some point during here where you're, trying to make these nice long strips. And if you do run out, it's not the end of the world, but it's kind of a pain in the booty. Okay. Now I'm coming up on that first seam. I'm just going to double check that they are matching fairly well. They are. Hold it down with your finger as you sew over it. That helps. You can see I'm not sewing this without stopping. I mean, I am stopping every few inches to just line everything back up. Another quick tip that would be helpful for those of you who are, looking to keep things in a very specific order as you sew them is to lay all of your columns out and take a picture of it before you start sewing so that you know exactly the order that you want your pieces to go together. So I'm going to keep working down this column and I'll show you what I've got when we get to the end. Just reached the bottom of my first column. Let's see how it looks. This is going to be so pretty. And it's a big quilt for a throw size. My goodness, this is going to be huge. Now I did add that extra column to the end, so you don't have to do this 9th, 10th, 11th column if you don't want to, but I just didn't want fabric to go to waste. So I'm going to go grab my next one in the line and just keep sewing my columns together. Once I get that part of the quilt top done, all we have to do is put our borders on and then we can quilt this. Okay? You're doing great. Okay, here's the quilt top. So far, that is so cute. I love this. I love how the colors just, I don't know, they're so bright and confused, like mixed together and happy. I really love this. And the blue background is perfect. So I did add that extra row because I had the extra blocks, and you don't have to do that. So if you want to make it one shorter, you can, but hey, go big or go home, right? So we've got this done. It's a nice long length. Now we're going to add our borders to the right and left side. So let me show you how to put that together and attach it to the quilt. So we've got 2 piles of strips here. The smaller pile, just put that aside for now. And when it comes to the bigger pile, we're going to just take random, just mix them all together, and we're going to go end to end to create 6 rows of 12 rectangles. So just try your best to do different colors and mix them all together. That's going to make it even more visually interesting. Now, one thing I'm going to do to make this go a little faster is chain piece them. So I'm going to chain piece 6 rows at a time. And that's because I need a total of 6. So I'm going to grab my next 2, make sure they're different, and just continue sewing through. 2 more. So this will be 3. Turn your piles over and you can mix them however makes sense to you. This will be 4. 5. 6. Okay, Now, pull this all forward till you get to the top of your line again. Open it up and add another one on to the end. So now we're in on, this is our third piece. We're looking for 12. We're going to sew that. Open up your next one and add a color. So that's 2. There's 3. Now, again, this may not make it faster for you. So if making the 12 in a row is faster and then you just do 5 more, that's fine too. I always like to test out new methods and see which one works best for me. And then I'll, make notes of this whole project in my sewing journal. And if I change anything, like my note about adding an additional row to the throw size, I'll put that in there. We make adjustments as sewists all the time. And especially once you start getting more comfortable with your sewing, you will make changes. And it's important that we write those down, because if it's something that we end up loving, we may want to recreate it. And that is a great place to put it, is my sewing journal. I created that because, honestly, I created it for me in the beginning because I needed something to do a better job of tracking those things. I was writing them on the pattern, or I was writing it on the pattern sleeve, or on a Post-it note, and everything was getting lost. So if you're interested in the sewing journal, I will link it in the description below. You can absolutely grab one. It's a great tool just to kind of keep yourself organized. Okay, so I'm going to keep working my way down. I've got 3 now, so I'm going to do this until I have 12 on each of these 6 rows. And then I'll meet you back here and show you how to attach just our little pieces. And then we're ready to sew these onto the side of the quilt and be done with the top. You're doing such a good job. Okay, I've got 6 strips now of 12 of those 6.5 inch by 2.5 inch squares. So you should have 6 of those. Now you should also have 6 of these smaller squares, rectangles, shapes, whatever. You're gonna take each row and add 1 of these to the end. And what this is gonna do is, just like we sort of staggered the quilt top in the middle, this will help stagger these squares on the ends, kind of throw them off so they alternate, and it's going to be super cool looking. So it doesn't matter which end you add it to, because we can change the direction of it as we, take a look at it and see how we want things laid out. So just go ahead and add those on, and then I want you to press them. So I would just press them all the same direction. That'll just make it easier. We're not trying to make life more difficult, especially at this part of the project where we really want to see this quilt top done. So go ahead and keep adding those beautiful little square rectangle shapey things to the ends of your lines. And then I'll meet you back here and show you, and iron them. And then I'll show you how to put them on the ends of your quilt. This shirt just keeps getting better. They look amazing. I can't wait to go to the school pickup line in this. They already think I'm nuts. All right, take 3 of your strips, okay? Any 3. At this point, the colors are so jumbled and mixed up, I don't think it really matters. But if you care about it, then you can, sit and discern which one makes you happiest. And I want you to take it so that you've got 1 short end in your right hand, okay? And lay it flat. This is going to be our center of this particular combination, okay? Now find one where you have a long block on the far end. And of course, they're the same color. Let me find a different one. I guess it does matter. Take my words back. Hopefully that's not exactly the same. At this point in the quilting process, I start losing my mind a little bit. There. That looks nice. Okay, so we'll do that one there. And then we need 1 more with a long end, which was so fruitful before. This probably will be a disaster still. That one's not going to work. This one's already in use. What about, do we try this one? It's got red, but who cares? Yeah. Well, just because I'm fixing it on this end doesn't mean it's going to be better on the other side. Got 1 more to try. Did we already try this one? Oh no, this looks good. Oh, what happened to my seam here? Straighten that out. Okay. Good. Love it. All right, now fold this one down so your pretty sides are touching. We're gonna run it through and connect them. And you don't have to match any seams on this. Since we added that one shorter piece, you're not gonna have to do any seam matching on this step, which is really nice because once you get this far in, you just want to see the quilt top in its beautiful finished state. So the faster we can get there, the better. I'm an impatient quilter, if you haven't noticed. You're probably not going to often find me making super intricate quilts that have a bajillion pieces, just because my ADHD will not allow that. It's just, and it takes the fun out of it, I guess, for me a little bit. I like doing these kind of, I don't know, more abstract, bigger pieces, less fuss. I'm an unfussy quilter. How about that? Fussy about certain things in life, but when it comes to quilting, I just really like to see the pretty colors come together and shapes. All right, so we've got that put together now. We're gonna lay it down. Can't remember which end I put through. Here, this one. Make sure you're attaching it at the correct end. So in this case, my short piece is in the middle, and I want to make sure that it's surrounded by the longer pieces. So that's how this is now that I've mocked it up correctly. And sew that one through. And then you're going to repeat those steps on the opposite end pieces. So those final 3 strips that you have, sew those together, and then I'll come back and I'm going to show you how to attach them to the ends of your quilt. Yay! Last step of the quilt top is we are going to attach these nice long end cap strip things to the end of our quilt. So let's find one end here, and I'm going to grab one of my long pieces, lay that right at the top. It doesn't matter, I don't think, if you have the short piece at the top or the bottom. You could alternate them. You could do them the same way if you want for them to be symmetrical. It's totally up to you. And I'm going to wrestle all this fabric. We've got a lot of fabric here. Just take your time. Line that up. And we're going to sew it on. Oh, I'm getting excited. I want to see this. I haven't decided what backing I'm going to use yet. I'm not sure. I'll probably decide that on another day because I have been sewing for a long time this morning. I'm tired. Remember, it's always good to take a break. So don't feel like you have to finish a whole, and even this quilt top, if I hadn't been trying to finish this recording, I wouldn't have done all this in one day. I probably would have worked on just one step at a time and come back to it. But because I love you, I wanted to get this done. And I do kind of need to hurry because I need to give this to Miss Wanda next week at my son's little graduation. He's going to wear a cap and gown. It's so sweet. Oh, they just grow up so fast. My kids are in all of their end of school, all the end of school year activities right now, the field days and the fun, popsicles at, recess, that kind of stuff, I remember that stuff as a kid, and I looked forward to it every year. There was like such a nice sense of freedom that was on the horizon in the last 1 to 2 weeks of school, and you're really not doing a whole lot. Everybody's just sort of over it and enjoying their time before they go off for summer vacation, and childhood's a really special time. I wish I would have known that when I was in it. I was so busy trying to be more grown up than I actually was that I didn't really stop and smell the roses, which, hindsight's 2020. But childhood really was pretty good if you think about it. Okay, I'm going to keep working my way down. This is a long quilt. It'll cover lots of feet at the end whenever she goes. And she's not a very tall person anyway, so it doesn't. But hopefully she can snuggle her family and her grandkids and all the people she loves under this quilt because she 100% deserves it. She's an angel on earth. I can't say enough good things about her. Funny story about that, actually. Her preschool is very old school, the way she runs things. So she has a certain number of applications available every year. She doesn't do any advertising. She's not on the internet. That's the kind of old school she is. And she always says, I'm going to have this many applications the first day of the school year, which would be of the new year. So if you want to come in the fall, you need to be there on January 2nd or whatever the first day of the actual year is to go pick up applications from her. So my friend Mary and I were desperate to get our kids in this school. She has a wait list of 300 people. It's insane. And so on New Year's Day, she calls me and she's like, we should probably go over and park in front of the school. Miss Wanda opens at 6:30, so we should probably get there, I don't know, maybe 5. And I was like, okay, sure. So we planned to meet there at 5 in the morning the next day. And she calls me the night before and she's like, I am just really anxious about this. And I've got to get my daughter in this school. So how about we meet at, let's say 3. So I was like, okay. So we trudged on over there, parked our cars in front of the school at 3 in the morning, and it turned out okay. We brought coffee and we ended up chatting in the car for a couple hours. But the funny part was when Miss Wanda arrived to open that day, we scared her because she wasn't anticipating having people waiting outside the door. So she drove around the school a few times and said when we went inside, she was like, y'all scared me. I thought somebody was trying to rob me. So, but we told her, no, we're just crazy about trying to get into your amazing school. So we both got our applications that day and were able to get in, but we're kind of known as the crazy ones, which it was hilarious because nobody else arrived that early. They all arrived in a timely fashion right when she opened and got their applications. But hey, you never know. If you want something, sometimes you got to show up early and camp out. So that's what we did. A fond memory. All right, let me finish this other side and then I'll come back on and reveal this gorgeous quilt top to you. I'm so excited. See you in a minute. I just finished the quilt top. Let me show it to you. I don't know which way is at the top anymore. I've gotten it all mixed up. So I don't know. I'll show you this way and then we'll flip it. Oh man, that border on the end makes this pop. Look how pretty that is. Oh, I love this. I love it. I love it. And it's really big. Yes. Oh, that is gorgeous. Let's get a closer look. So much fun. Okay. Well, I am going to go eventually finish this. I'm going to take a break now, but hopefully this week I'll be able to get this completely quilted. I'm going to do it on my domestic machine. It's going to be big and a little bit difficult, so I will keep you posted. But if you're interested in learning more techniques on how to finish a quilt, batting, backing, putting the quilting lines, binding, I have lots of tutorials that include that. I just don't want this tutorial to end up being, like 6 hours long. So I'm going to take care of that on my own off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the finished quilt with the backing on it. Okay? See you soon. For me, it will be a few days, but for you, I'll be back in just a second. See you in a minute. It's time to see the quilt. I just finished it. Really bummed about this. I just backed this with a flat sheet, a cotton flat sheet from Walmart, you guys. It was $14. That is such a good option if you have a lot going on in the front. I struggled with what to put on the back of this quilt because it's just got so many colors. And I realized going simple was the best route. And I had plenty with a full-sized flat sheet. It fit perfectly. And I had enough left over to do the binding with it as well. $14, guys. You can't beat that. Okay, are you ready to see this quilt? She's big. Because I added in that extra row, she's real big, but it'll be great for snuggling. All right, here we go. There she is. And I think this is going to be just perfect for Miss Wanda because when I think of Miss Wanda, I think of the rainbow that she provides to all of those kids. She is such a bright, happy light in her classes, and every one of these colors represents every one of those kids that she has touched over the years and taught and helped and nurtured. I just can't say enough good things about her. And now I'm probably going to cry because I have to say goodbye to her soon, and that makes me sad. I wish my son could go to preschool forever. So anyway, for the quilting, I was wrestling this in my domestic machine. So we just kept it simple and did meandering wavy stitches. And here's how the back looks. You can see them better on the back there. So simple, so easy to do. Let me get the light here. And it's just a really good way to get everything attached while making it look still visually interesting without any measuring and no stress. The meandering wavy stitch is one of my very favorite ways to finish a quilt. So this is how it turned out. What do you think of Miss Wanda's thank you quilt? Do you think she's going to like it? I can't wait to give it to her. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for following along today. Thank you to Ellie at Mojave Farms for creating this wonderful pattern and Sewing Parts Online to carry this beautiful box. Again, if you want to get these exact fabrics and make one just like mine, you can head on over to sewingpartsonline.com and look up the Mojave Farms Ambassador Box, and it'll bring it right up for you. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all of my upcoming content, and I will see you guys next time. Happy sewing, everyone!